To introduce myself, my name is Tracy Williams. I'm the project manager for blood donation at the Sickle Cell Society. I'm going to talk for 15 minutes about some of the work that we've been doing over the past 2.5 years, starting with a project called South London Gives, and looking at our current project, which is called Give Blood, Spread Love England, both of which aim to raise awareness of the need for ethnically matched blood donors and to increase the amount of new Black heritage people who register to give blood. So a little bit of background about the project. So I started this work in January 2019, and from that time up until recently, March of this year, we were funded by NHSBT to deliver what was a pilot programme, a pilot project, to test the efficacy of a community organising approach in recruiting Black heritage blood donors in 4 specific boroughs in South London, hence our name, South London Gives. We were the first external organisation to be commissioned by NHSBT to deliver this work. And the aim of it, as I said, it was to encourage more Black heritage people to discuss some of the issues around blood donation, look at some of the challenges that we're faced when we're trying to get more Black people to regularly give blood, and to encourage people to sign up to the blood donation register. Because it was a pilot project, we took a kind of testing approach to everything that we did, which meant that some of the original plans shifted during the course of the 2.5 years. Some of those were our decisions. So, for example, the community organising approach that we were looking at, which is very much about individuals being trained in formal community organising practices and then going out within their communities to use that training and talk about blood donation to the networks that they had and form new networks, and really galvanise interest and enthusiasm around blood donation. That shifted quite early on in the project, largely because our team of community organisers were very much people from the community, often people with sickle cell themselves, and we found that the demands of that structured community organising approach didn't kind of meet the volunteers who were very much from the community and had the background, the knowledge and the enthusiasm that we needed. Didn't kind of fit how they could involve themselves kind of practically in the project. So that's one thing that we changed quite early on. So we shifted to a much more flexible way of volunteers getting involved with us, being trained with the essential knowledge that they needed to talk about blood donation and recruit people, and enabled them to do that in a way that worked better for them. We also used the Sickle Cell Society's broad links with Black heritage communities to maximise our reach into our target group. So, for example, that meant working with organisations that we were already in partnership with to go along and talk to them about blood donation, but also to use the Sickle Cell Society's reputation as a trusted community-based organisation to engage with people on the topic of blood donation. And a couple of things. Well, one thing in particular was out of our control in terms of how we changed our practice over the last couple of years, which was obviously the impact of COVID-19. So prior to the pandemic, all of our work was very much face-to-face. Outreach was really very much at the heart of what we did. And I'll talk a bit more about that on some follow-up slides. But due to COVID, we had to really switch our approach significantly. And one of the ways we did that, as everyone did, was by doing lots of work online. But we also brought in a new digitally focused project called Give Blood, Spread Love, which focused on creating a range of new ways for people to communicate with us online, be educated about blood donation, and this really helped us kind of reach a younger demographic in terms of getting people to sign up to us. On to my next slide. So to talk a little bit more about South London Gives, so the community advocates, there are a team of volunteers who support us to deliver the work that we do, are very much at the heart of this project. We have a team now who are a mixture of community advocate volunteers and volunteers from our Give Blood squad, who all in various ways help to share the message around blood donation and help recruit people to our cause. They do that by talking to people that they know, also by taking part in online presentations and talking about their personal experiences. As I said, I think it's something like 85% of our volunteers either have sickle cell or sickle cell trait, or have a close family member who is affected by sickle cell. So people are really coming from a place of lived experience in their work with us. Many of our volunteers also receive blood transfusions to keep them alive, keep them healthy, and their willingness to share their personal experiences really helps us in ways it's hard to measure, really, in communicating our message. Some of you may be aware that there's been lots of research around how around the lack of people from Black heritage signing up and some of the challenges involved in that. And one thing that a recent piece of research notes is the importance of when you are trying to communicate a message or deliver a call to action, that the people delivering that message or saying that call are from a community that is kind of recognisable to the people you're trying to target. And that quote you can see on the right there is from one of our community advocates who feels kind of very strongly that the team are in the best place to encourage more people from Black heritage backgrounds to start giving blood. This is just a little bit about more about some of the ways that our community advocates are involved. So I mentioned that we have lots of people who are affected by sickle cell, and we also have some regular blood donors who help us communicate our message. On the right here, you can see Brenda, who took part in a campaign to help us recruit more blood donors. I think at the time she donated blood 40 times, but now she's up to 41. And the sort of power of having someone that's gone through the blood donation experience, not just once, but repeatedly, in helping allay some of the fears that people have around going to a blood donation centre. Some of the fears around needles, around hygiene, which is very common, being able to be reassured from an informed and trusted perspective is really important in what we do. And that diagram on the left, I won't go through it all, but it just gives you a picture of a typical way that one of our community advocates is involved in our work. So, you know, a key part of it is talking about who their networks are, helping them identify how they can approach them, providing them with the resources and support that they need to do that effectively, and also being very responsive to people's suggestions about what would work and what they would like to try. So, for example, lots of our volunteers have gone on to curate their own presentations with their own workplaces or with their own churches, which I'll say a bit more about in a second. And so, to give you some examples of some of the organised recruitment activities that we've done. So this information here is a mixture of kind of what we did when we were going out face to face and some of the presentations that we did kind of during COVID. So working with faith groups, collaborating with faith groups has been a really powerful aspect of the project. A lot of our volunteers happen to be committed Christians who are very active in their churches and have really helped us kind of literally get our foot in the door and be able to speak in front of congregations of up to 300 people to talk to them about blood donation. The picture that you see here is when we went to a church called House of Praise, which is a Black majority church, where this was our first outing actually, and a couple of the people that you see there were talking about having sickle cell for the first time. Some of them, one of the people was a member of the church, and even though she's a very active member of the church, lots of the people who knew her didn't know that she had sickle cell, or how sick she had been, or how blood transfusions had changed her life. So kind of giving testimony in front of faith groups is one aspect of our project which has been particularly successful, although we are of course a secular group. We've also worked in partnership with a range of public organisations and corporate organisations, including PwC and KPMG. We have given lots of online presentations around the theme of kind of well-being and disability in the workplace to help raise awareness of our work and encourage people to sign up. We also have and continue to do work with universities, particularly their African and Caribbean societies, but also engaging with a range of kind of networks in universities to help us reach the younger demographic that we also wish to sign up to our project. So our blood donors, so recruiting Black heritage blood donors is can be a long process for some people. Their willingness to get involved is almost immediate after they understand the need. For other people, they need more information, more support, and more time to think about it. As part of our COVID restrictions, we've been recruiting lots of people online through our Give Blood Spread Love Instagram site. And we've also been testing out kind of different ways to encourage people to give. So we too have been working with group donations. The image that you see on the left is just one of a series of images of a family that went along to give blood after being involved in our project. We're also keenly aware that men are often underrepresented in coming forwards to give blood. So we've done some specific work around encouraging men to register as blood donors that we're going to pick up next month, which is Sickle Cell Awareness Month. So we're going to have a specific campaign around that. And so where we are now is that the pilot project for South London Gives has ended. It ended in March, and we have kind of shifted and slightly reinvented ourselves to become Give Blood Spread Love England. So where our previous project was working in a sort of named specific area, although that was very difficult to keep to, because obviously people would see information about your work and want to get involved. We are now actively working across England, as well as targeting London. Our focus is on the target communities in Birmingham and Manchester, where we're developing some work at the moment. But now we can definitely register and engage with people throughout England. The digital messaging part of our work remains very important, so we will continue doing that and involving the kind of celebrities and social media influencers in endorsing some of the messages that we put out. We also plan to do some more online and in-person events. We recently ran a spoken word event to raise awareness of sickle cell. We're also doing some dedicated workshops around iron, because lots of the times when people come back to us and say that they weren't able to donate, for women in particular, it's due to an iron deficiency. So we're doing some awareness raising around that so people can be a bit more prepared prior to going along to donate. We also find that one of the things that people aren't necessarily aware of is the need for ethnically matched blood, and why it's important. So we'll continue doing some work around that. We've been doing this work for a couple of years, a sort of cohort of people who have come forward, who have registered to donate, but haven't gone on to give for a variety of reasons. And that could be because of the iron reason, perhaps they have changed their mind, or they've become slightly unsure, or they've heard something that they need clarifying. So we have a group of people who are still to be transition to actual donors if they wish to do so. So we plan to do some work around that by having some group discussions around what the barriers are, what barriers remain around supporting people to give, and that's some of the work that we've got coming up in the future. And we're now funded by multiple donors to deliver this work for the next year. I believe this is my last slide. So just having kind of done this work, which has been really kind of fascinating and challenging and inspiring to work with all the different people that we've worked with, we have some kind of particular learning points that we really want to pick up this year. And I think one thing that we're always mindful of is that asking people to tell their personal stories really works. It really has an impact. Digital media is quite sort of hungry for information, so we have to keep kind of replacing that. And I think being mindful of the fact that people are kind of sharing a lot when they're telling their personal stories, and not forgetting the kind of impact that they can have on them. Just to pick out another couple of pieces of learning before I end. I think one thing that we've discovered is the nuance involved in the messaging that Black heritage blood donors are needed for people with sickle cell. We've discovered that there's a nuance that exists, and there's kind of details that people want to know about their blood, about blood matching, about whose blood is needed. And we'd really like to work a bit more with NHSBT around kind of increasing our knowledge, and perhaps the knowledge of all the groups that have come forward as part of this community investment scheme, to make sure that we're all on the same page and we have more of a kind of in-depth understanding of some of the details about blood donation, so that we can communicate that kind of accurately with the people that we engage with. I am very happy for Selma to send these slides around, so I think I might wind up there, and I know that Selma will be able to send my contact details around afterwards if people have any questions, and because it's 6 minutes past 4.